How's it going, everyone? And thank you for tuning into this episode of the Hanging Up the Boots podcast. In this episode, I'm interviewing my good friend and also former Marine, Phillip Rios. We met at DLI early into our careers, and we've just been hanging out, playing video games together, and we've just remained really good friends. But unfortunately, I don't get to see him very often because he lives in Australia. He ended up there during his time in the Marine Corps, and now he's there pursuing his passion, which is jazz trombone, which is pretty fucking cool. So give it up for Phillip Rios. All right, so we got Phil here. How's it going, dude?
Good, man. How are you?
Good. I'm excited to finally be doing this with you. It's been a while since we
I know.
chatted.
It's been a
But
while.
yeah, exactly. But for everyone listening, Phil is one of my best friends, and we have spent the better part of the last couple years playing every video game under the sun together, um, for better and for worse. You know, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. But that's how we've kept in touch because Phil is currently in Australia and the Marine Corps brought him there. So, Phil, just go ahead and, you grew up in Texas. We don't need, or I don't need your entire life story, but what kind of got you from whatever it was that you were doing before the Marine Corps into the Marine Corps?
Honestly, it was sheer lack of destination on my part. So I was in uni. So I was 19 in uni, wanted to study music, but I didn't properly audition to get into music school. So I was just at University of North Texas
Mm-hmm.
playing in ensembles and but not getting private lessons or getting all the benefits of being a quote unquote actual music student. So I
Mm-hmm.
was just, at school, not really motivated. I was kind of burnt out on school, as every high schooler is after they're finished and then their first couple years of school in
Amen,
college.
dude.
So I was just bored. Like, wasn't having a good time. I didn't really keep up with a lot of people from high school. So I had maybe two friends in uni at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and they both lived on campus. I lived at home. So I
Mm.
just started skipping class, man. Like it was pretty lame. I started skipping class, started being real apathetic about my grades, and then after 2 semesters of pretty dismal grades, my one of my best friends from high school, he had already joined and was what, a year and a half in,
Mm-hmm.
and he was over in the air wing in Miramar, and so it's like, join the Marine Corps, man. Join the Marine Corps, man. You'll love it. And I said, yeah, okay.
I mean,
So and that was kind of all it took, you know.
sometimes that's all
He,
it takes. I mean, I've told the
he
story of how
played.
I got in, and it was basically, you know, all of my other potential prospects fell through. And my dad was just kind of like, well, have you ever considered joining the military? And like 3 days later, I was signing paperwork. So,
Yeah, sometimes all you need is like, oh, okay.
yeah, it is
So
a
that
good
was like,
fallback option. So,
yeah, and it was kind of a summer decision. So he planted the seed, and the more I thought about it, the more I was interested. And then I talked to a family friend of ours who is a retired Chief Warrant Officer three.
mm-hmm.
He'd spent 21 years in the Marine Corps band, which
Ooh,
was cool for me because he was my private teacher when I was growing up, being a
right.
young trombone player. So he influenced me and my decision a lot, and not just like, yes, join the Marine Corps, it's great, you'll love it. He was more towards the lines of, join something that you can do afterwards, except it needs to be fulfilling for you personally and have good prospects when you're out.
Right.
You can't just be the guy that, I spent 5 years shooting at people and now I'm out of the military and have no job skills except like
Shooting
being
at
a
people.
cop or something like that. Yeah, shooting at people.
Yeah.
So he really urged me against infantry. Not that infantry's bad, but he just wanted me to have something to look forward to when I got out.
Mm-hmm.
So he pushed for intel really hard.
Right.
And so I said, yeah, okay, intel sounds interesting. So I started looking at, just cool jobs that sounded like I would be interested. And linguist came up, cryptologic linguist. So I said, yeah, sure. So that's that's the whole joining the Marine Corps story.
Nice. And
Best friend
then,
said join, got some advice afterwards of like, hey, join this way. And I said, yep, okay. So I did it.
And that is good advice for any of you. I mean, I'm assuming most of anybody listening to this is either currently or was once in the military in some capacity, and just based on the content. But um, that is good advice for just about anybody considering joining the military. Is plan ahead, plan for after the military if you don't want to make it a career,
Yeah.
and because I think that is something that I think contributes a lot to, we've talked about veteran homelessness and things like that is uh, you get in, and if you are in one of those combat arms MOSs, which are obviously crucial to, the Marine Corps and war fighting as a whole, but you're going to be a lot better prepared for a life post Marine Corps if you use your time in the military to build yourself a skill set that is transferable to the civilian sector. Um, which some people do better than others. Like another one of my closest friends is he got out and he immediately had a job lined up as a programmer for Microsoft, and he's just like living large. He did it the
Yeah.
right way. Um, but yeah, the worst thing you can do is go in open contract. Like to this day, I don't know why people do that.
They
Just
just don't care about what jobs I get, and it really makes a difference. If you're looking forward to the job that you have, then you can at least say that you wanted to be there, you know.
yeah,
And
100%.
a lot of us, don't think I would have thought about having something like having an MOS that prepared me for later on, because I was, I kind of caught the bug that every teenage boy catches, like, oh, special ops, like sniper or whatever, like secret
Yeah,
squirrel, this, Delta Force, blah, blah, blah. And all that's really cool. And it's okay to say that that's really cool, but pursue something else. And it took
100%.
me a long time to figure that out, even now, like as career wise, but we'll get to that.
Definitely.
So,
And
so
so,
going in,
sorry, go ahead, dude.
it was interesting. Like we did the whole DLI route. Like we did the boot camp, the MCT,
Mm-hmm.
and then we did DLI together. Well, not boot camp together, but we did DLI together.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun.
Yeah,
I
that was a
felt
good
like I had
time.
an unfair advantage being the having the very very intense music passed. I felt like I was kind of on easy mode at the language school.
Really? The
Yeah,
music?
didn't. Oh yeah, dude, it helps so much.
Really? I didn't know that.
As
I,
if
I mean, I've never been a hardcore musician. I didn't know that it was that rigorous.
it typically, if you have a good background, like if you just play in high school band, it may not prepare you as much. But if you've got the genes from your parents, and if you've got like a lot of ear training, which I had in the past, if you've got a lot of private lessons, if you've recorded yourself and listened to yourself play again, um, just the more you got involved in music and music theory and listening and just like really in depth, and not just like listening to music and enjoying it, like that's great, there's nothing wrong with that. But when you get into ear training and you're
Hmm.
thinking about, okay, like this interval is like a major third or a perfect fourth or a perfect fifth, and you're really listening to details,
Mm-hmm.
it sets your brain up to understand and listen for differences in words and inflection and accent and just like the rhythm of the language. So
Hmm.
Arabic was super easy from that point, because I may not know what words I was speaking, but I could definitely hear absolute clear and distinct words. And if I heard the teacher say it once, I had it instantly and I knew what that word was. I was
Hmm.
like, yep, okay, I know how that word's supposed to sound. I'll practice it a couple times with my own face and mouth and make it sound like it's supposed to. And bada bing, bada boom, I have that word now. And it's just like that, man.
That makes sense. I really never drew that connection. That does make a lot of sense though, because that was, the listening aspect was definitely more difficult for the majority of DLI students. And for those of
Yeah.
you who were not linguists, Defense Language Institute had, at least the Arabic school, the rate of passing the course in one shot without having to be rolled back, to experience a certain chunk of the course again is something like 30%. It's really really low. Like it's such a difficult school that when I first classed up, we had a big like lecture almost in an auditorium where all the staff of DLI was like, "Hey, just so you guys know, if you're looking around, the person to the right and the left of you, only one of you is going to be out of here on the first try." And we were like, "What the fuck? This is the worst scare tactic ever." Like, don't get me wrong, man, I was planning on doing my homework and everything, but
Right.
Jesus Christ. And it was kind of daunting. And listening was, for me at least, the more difficult than reading. But that's really interesting to consider how a background in detailed active listening helped in the linguistics training. That's really cool.
It was cool. It didn't help later on because I wasn't, I was working a Gulf mission and then an Iraqi mission, so
Right,
learning MSA didn't really help because I don't
right,
know those dialects, so it's just like struggle mode.
right.
But
And MSA
it at
being
least helped.
modern standard Arabic, which is the foundation of all of the different dialects used in the Middle East, but it's really only used in university lectures and on the news and stuff. Everything else
Yeah,
conversationally is heavily dialectic.
it's
But
like Queen's English.
yeah, exactly. It's like listening
It's
to
terrible.
Yeah, it's like listening to the news in, Shakespearean iambic pentameter and then going and talking to your buddies like you're from, deep Queens in New York.
It was great.
It, it was pretty crazy.
It
But
wasn't.
sorry, go ahead.
It wasn't helpful in hindsight. I mean, it worked, but if you don't follow on with the dialect, then you just kind of struggle a little bit.
Oh, big time. Big time.
Yeah.
I was working the Syrian mission for a long time, and so that was not easy to say the least. You're like, well, I have a rudimentary understanding of what's going on here, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it was a lot more hope than anything else.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I hope this is garbage. What
Yeah,
am I listening to? Yeah, this doesn't sound like anything.
yeah, exactly. So we get through DLI and we regrettably parted ways, and I went to Camp Pendleton, and then you found yourself at in
Fort Gordon.
Georgia. Yeah.
Yeah, that was in Georgia, Augusta, Georgia.
Mm. And
So
and
Fort Gordon was interesting. It was an army base,
mhm.
and the location we worked at on the base was joint forces. So it was international as well. So we had like Canadians and people from all of the other different militaries, like mostly Five Eyes. So Canadian, UK, Australians. Um, who else is in Five Eyes? New Zealand and us. So there were mostly guys from all over the place. Every once in a while, you'd see like an actual foreign officer, and you're like, oh, interesting.
Yeah,
But
ooh.
yeah, like
What are
ooh,
you doing here?
unicorn.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was cool. Whitelaw was a cool building to work at. It was an interesting location. Georgia was a very very small unit with more of a family vibe. Um, I originally wanted Georgia because honestly, someone at DLI, some of the instructors there were saying that Georgia was going to be the most chill unit to go to, and you would
Smart.
sit in a desk. You would sit in a desk, work at NSA, and like legit use your language and not have to do like too much Marine bullshit.
Any SIGINT
Which for
shit.
me, yeah, well,
Yeah.
for me at the time, I was like, yes, I would like to do this,
Especially
because I
because you
like,
were you were good at the language and you liked it.
yeah, and I enjoyed like translating. I didn't really enjoy like, I don't know, learning about radios and crap like we did at
Hmm.
what was that place?
In Texas.
Oh yeah, in West Texas. Was it
Yeah.
Goodfellow Air Force Base? Like the place that like
Yep.
barren wasteland.
The
I
place
didn't
God
really enjoy
forgot.
that stuff. Yeah, I didn't enjoy that technology and working with like direction finding and crap like that. So I
Yeah.
wasn't super interested in continuing the SIGINT side.
Hmm.
Um, so Fort Gordon was interesting. Like the mission was okay. My shop was kind of boring. We didn't really like track down bad guys and put warheads on foreheads. We just reported on stuff. So it was quite the opposite of what we all expected to be doing, which is like tracking down terrorists and blowing them up and shit.
Right.
Which some of my friends at that same building got to do all that stuff because they were just in the cooler shop. So I got put in.
You got hosed.
Seriously, I got hosed. I got put in the boring jobs. So I was like, okay, this is kind of where you just spin your wheels and work on paperwork and having a nice fit rep and all this other shit.
Yeah.
So it was still a decent shop. Like the op pace was okay. Like There was always stuff to do. It wasn't like there's nothing going on because all the terrorists were hiding and not using cell phones. It was
Mm.
just, we did our thing. We got to listen. We got to translate. And at the end of the day, we just went home at a normal time. We never surged. We never had to be there for like 20 hours a day because everyone's just shit's popping off everywhere. It was just a nice pace. So Fort Gordon, family vibe. White Law, my shop, again, family vibe, which was pretty dope.
Mm.
Um, and then my home life kind of turned to shit, which, like, as a precursor, set me up for like kind of a bad time
Right.
ahead of me. So I got married super young, which was the smartest thing I ever did. um, as is tradition.
Heavily.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. You didn't
like
get
you
issued a
join the
wife, so you
military.
found one real quick.
Exactly. You join the military, you feel grown up, you do grown up things, and then you realize I'm not grown up.
Yep.
So
I'm a
got
child with a drinking permit.
exactly like got
Yeah.
married at 21 or some shit, and
Mm.
then we were divorced by the time I was 23, which is
Mm.
hilarious. So I
I
mean,
mean, it's par
aside
for the course,
from
man.
yeah, and aside from like terrible home life and like bad fights and stuff, we ended up in marriage counseling, which actually helped a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we still didn't want to pursue a marriage together, but we learned a lot about relationships and being adults and managing your own emotions and reactions and actions and stuff. So
That's
I
good.
like to
Yeah.
say we grew as people, but not as a couple, which was fine. We were at that point. We had already decided, okay, we're not going to stick together. Some shit happened, and our unit got a little bit involved, and our unit recommended some counseling on base. So we went to that counseling. It was actually really, really fruitful for both of us. We did individual counseling and couples counseling, and it was really awesome. So one of the biggest things that I learned from the couples counseling, not as like as couples podcast aside, but just to diverge real quick, the couples counseling, the biggest thing that stuck out to me was you're responsible for your actions and your reactions. So like, say my ex and I got into a fight and I was kind of pissed off, and I'm like, that really makes me feel unappreciated and like shit.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of saying you make me feel like shit, you can take a break from something, calm down, think about, okay, why does this make me feel like this? What's the root cause of this? And how can I go about to talk about this in like a constructive way? And so instead of saying, you make me feel like shit, I hate you, you can say, hey, this really upsets me. I'd like to figure out a way that we can go about things that doesn't have this happen, you know?
Yeah.
So stuff like that was super helpful. I still dealt with like isolation issues during the divorce because I wasn't seeing my friends very much. Wasn't
Mm-hmm.
really motivated to go like spend time with people because my home life was absolute ass. So I just kind of played video games and coped with stress with like video games and some gym. I started to dabble like a tiny bit.
Right.
Um, so, and then after the divorce, I was still in individual counseling more for like, hey, you have worth, you have self worth. Here's confidence. Here are things that you'd like to do that other people would find interesting. So, one thing that helped a lot was my counselor, Gail, who's like an amazing, he's a fucking angel. She was awesome. She had me
Shout out to Gail.
talk about, yeah, shout out to Gail if you're out there. She was having me list things that I was interested in and that I like practiced. So,
Mm-hmm.
what do you do? What do you like to do? I was like, well, I enjoy a little bit of gardening. I grew like a pretty dope garden in Georgia because you can grow anything. Um, had a
What?
nice
Hold
legal
on. Pause.
vegetable garden.
Really?
Yeah, dude.
You're
I
just like, you know what? I'm just gonna start a garden. Where?
yeah, well, because I grew up on like small town Texas farm, and we had a vegetable garden, and so I learned a lot of it from my mom. And when I was in Georgia, it's like, oh, I got like a decent sized backyard. I could put a couple dogs back here, but my dog is the size of a football, so I'm just gonna have a garden. So
I forgot that you didn't live on base because in
yeah,
the
yeah, we
barracks
lived.
and stuff, they don't even let you have a fucking toaster oven, let alone a garden.
I know it's ridiculous. No,
Yeah.
we lived out in town. We lived about 3 minutes away from base, which was great.
Oh, okay.
We just ghosted. I mean, also married, so BAH, and you pretty much
Right.
are
Okay.
guaranteed to live out in town.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. Okay.
even afterwards, I stayed in the house
Mhm.
because you could ghost in Georgia, which was another thing that everyone liked, and no one really cared if you moved out of the barracks as long as you kept your barracks room clean.
Mm.
But I was never assigned a barracks room even after I got divorced, so I just kind of skipped all that.
Nice. And ghosting for all non-military folks is when you're in the military, you're required to maintain a barracks room, which is stupid. But If you so choose, you can spend your own money to go live in an apartment or a house off base, and they don't care as long as you still maintain the barracks room that they gave you. So that's just called ghosting.
Yeah,
But
and they don't pay you the basic allowance for housing like they would if you're married. So it's just you're living out on the streets out of your own pocket, which sounds scary, but if you get three people to share a house in Georgia, it's like $300 a month for each of you, which is hella cheap.
Jesus, that's literally like
Because my
three people
house,
splitting one room in Southern California.
yeah, my 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 2 car garage, front and backyard house was $975 a month.
Oh my god.
It was dope, dude.
I just had a brain
Um,
aneurysm, dude.
I know it
In
was
Southern,
amazing.
I hate you, dude. In Southern California, a one bedroom apartment right now is $2,100.
Oh, yuck.
God, that
That's
hurts
awful.
yeah, that hurts my soul. Oh my gosh. Anyway,
It was nice. So going on through individual counseling, um, I picked up not a lot of self-management and self-regulation techniques. Like it was more just like, hey, you had a shitty relationship. That's okay, dude. Like, look on the bright side of life. You've got things to offer, like gardening. So I had that awesome vegetable garden. I had started a little bit of weightlifting. I had started like getting into cooking a lot. I was just, I don't know, I was just good at
those
a couple
biscuits.
things. Yeah, just basic domestication of man.
Hmm.
And I enjoyed stuff like that. So I like made stuff from scratch and I grew food and I just did like played instruments and shit. So
Very
Gail was helping
Renaissance
me
man lifestyle.
to apparently, and then Gail was just helping me to realize like, look, you're a decent person. There are people out there. I was like, yeah, cool. So after that, I got sent to, and I still contribute this to my unit, realizing like, hey, two people just got divorced. Let's try to split them up like physically as well,
Hmm.
and like give them space on their own. And so I think that's what happened because one of my he was a gunny at the time, Gunny Goot. Um, Gunnar Gutenson, shout out to him. He's an awesome guy, big mentor of mine. Even today, we're still in contact with each other very regularly, and I consider him a very very important mentor to me.
That's awesome.
He recommended that I go to Goodfellow Air Force Base again for the Marine Analyst and Reporter course.
Oh, to Mark,
So
yeah.
that's where you, yeah. So I went to Mark,
So
and that's a four
I think
month
that's the
course.
first time I've ever heard somebody actually call it, but I didn't even know what Mark stood for. I think that's the first time anybody's ever said the whole thing.
It's an interesting course. It's very hard. The We didn't drop too many people out of the class. We dropped, I think, three.
It's
Um,
not
but
terrible.
it's not terrible, but it's hard. Like
Mm.
they're all because they're already picky about who goes there. It's not like DLI where if you made it past a certain point on your little ASVAB test and your DLab, your little proficiency test for foreign languages, they just kind of send you off and wish you luck.
Yeah.
At Mark, they really care about how smart you are and how capable you are, because if you fail two tests, you're gone.
Damn.
Yeah, you're gone. You failed two tests, you're out. So you're in the skiff every single day from like 8 a.m. to like usually between 3 and 5. Sometimes we actually closed the skiff down and didn't leave until it was like 6 or 7 p.m.
Damn.
But you have to study your ass off. And the course was like tack reps, like really, really detailed writing code, not code as in programming, but writing codes that means like, hey, there's a jet headed this bearing, doing this with these people. This is the situation. You're writing sit reps and tack reps and stuff. And you also had to get really deep into legislation. So NSA
Yeah,
legislation,
yeah,
like
yeah.
federal government spying guidelines, whatever. You got really deep into those so that you could understand why you were doing what you're doing, what were the benefits and consequences, what were the regulations, why were they in place, stuff like that. So we actually had to read legitimate usage. Like I forget what usage stand for, but it's the legislation
United
that
States Signals
defines what we
Intelligence
can do.
Directives.
Oh God, yeah. So we had to get
How do I know
like knee
that but
deep in
not
those.
Mark? What the fuck is wrong with me?
We got knee deep in those and we were tested over them. We had to read the whole thing. It wasn't just like when you do your annual training at NSA or whatever site that you're on, you just like answered some questions on a multiple choice tests and then
Oh my god.
off you went. We had to read the whole thing. and then we got tested over it real deeply.
So people
Oh,
imagine every tax season having to pull up your entire federal and state tax codes and
yep,
reading
and you read
all of
those.
them before you go on TurboTax and do whatever the fuck. Holy
That's
moly.
exactly what it felt like,
That
man.
sounds awful.
So the course was 4 months long. It was hard as shit, but my classmates were great, except for a couple oddballs who are just weirdos, which is no stranger to our field.
Yeah.
Um, we're all a little bit of a closet weirdo, so
Yeah,
that's okay. It
definitely.
just comes out when you're stuck in a skiff together for
Uh,
4 months.
oh yeah. You have no idea how many dudes I worked with on the watch floor that were like, "Hey man, have you ever played the Pokemon card trading game?" I was like, "Yeah, when I still wore character underpants." Like, what are you talking about? And they're like, "Well, do you want to play with us?" And I was like,
Like, we got a
"Absolutely.
group.
Let's do it." Like,
Exactly, man.
yeah.
Everyone's being a weirdo. As long as you're socially like not inept, you fit in.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
it was cool. So the course was good. But what that meant, so and I think they really measured this out because I'm from Texas. The course is in West Texas. It's about a 4-hour drive from San Angelo to Denton, where I'm from. And so I really, really think that they understood that I would be able to go home quite often during this 4 month period. And so I did, freshly divorced by like a month, and I was at Mark instantly. I think it was within 3 weeks of us finalizing and filing for our divorce that I got sent to Mark.
Hmm.
And that meant that after, 3 weeks of individual counseling with my counselor again, I pretty much got to go home. I was at Mark during the week, and on the weekends I would file for special liberty so I could travel outside the liberty bounds,
Hmm.
and I would just go home, and I got to see all my family, got to see all my friends, a couple of my friends from high school. I think my best friend who had gotten me to join, he was still in Miramar at some point, but at some point he did get out and move back, so I got to see him,
Nice.
got to see my parents, got to see my siblings, just got to see everyone that I grew up with very regularly over 4 months. Got into a little casual relationship, which was like a nice little rebound, but we let it simmer for 4 months and just had a good time. So it was
Nice.
just a great period after that whole shitty divorce thing. So it was really good for my mental health. Like, I had a difficult course, but I had like good friends, good social structure at the course, and then I got heavy into the gym over there.
I remember that.
Gained I gained like 15 pounds over that 4 months. Um, like beefed up a little bit. It's not like I turned into He-Man, but I was less frail.
Yeah.
I was coming from 155 pounds. You gain 15 pounds. You look decent.
Yeah, it's a big
Sitting at like
difference.
a nice 170, you look athletic. That's kind of what I was going for. Not just don't look tiny and shriveled up anymore.
Yeah.
So I had good, without realizing it, I had great coping mechanisms. I had a good social structure. I wasn't turning to alcohol to cope with my shitty divorce.
Right.
I had
Thank God.
structure every day of a course. I had people to answer to, people to look up to. We did like little unit PT, which was really informal, which was more chill than normal unit PT in the mornings. So we would like play football, play soccer, hang out, do some yoga, go to the gym, lift weights, and then I would go home and see my family on the weekends, which was awesome. Um,
Yeah, that's like the Marine
and
Corps
then,
dream, dude.
dude, and they sweetened it up. Like a couple weeks out from graduation from this course, which in the end it gives you a B billet, so you have like a secondary job, which is pretty cool because it's like there's a legit reason to go because you get a B billet. It looks good
Right.
on fit reps and promotion and all that stuff. So a couple weeks out from graduation, I get a call from my unit in Georgia, and they're like, "Oh, Corporal Rios, you want to deploy at some point, don't you?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course. That's kind of why all of us signed up to go, do the shit."
Right.
And so they said, "Okay, well, you're gonna deploy when you come back. By the way, you're going to Australia," and then just kind of like hung up. I was like, "Wait, what?" And I got this phone call at breakfast. It was 7:30 in the morning. I got this phone call, so it's like 9:30 for them or something.
Yeah.
But I'm just eating breakfast, hanging out, and again, I think they really wanted to either push me forward career wise or push me forward mentally and kind of hold me up a little bit. So they sent me on a deployment. The deployment itself, the details were a little fuzzy. Like they didn't know where in Australia I was going yet. They didn't know when exactly I was going because they had to wait for funding to pass through and do all this bullshit. So I ended up waiting after I graduated Mark, went back to Georgia, went back home for a couple days before that, then went back to Georgia, and I ended up hanging out for like a month and a half My
Mm-hmm.
shop didn't have a place for me because I'd been gone for 4 months. So my shop didn't want me, and the unit was like, "We have nothing for you to do at our at I think it was called the Coof. I don't know what that means, but it's just the little house where our tiny unit was.
Right.
There was like two admin workers, an admin staff sergeant, our CO, and our senior enlisted advisor. So like 6 people in this nice little like brick shack government building, you know.
Yeah.
So at the Coof, nobody wanted me there. They had nothing for me to do. No supply bins for me to like package and like no mail for me to pick up because the admin dudes did it a couple times a week. So they're like, wake up. You can call us in the morning. I'm not going to say names, but they're like, just wake up and call me in the morning when you're up and we'll count you as present, dude. Just go fuck off. Go to PT. Don't be nasty. Like, go pack and prep for Australia. I was like, okay, cool.
A month and
So
then the fucking
it
like,
was a month and a half of that. So I woke up
oh
every
my
day at
gosh.
7 a.m. I called the Koof. I'm like, hey, I'm up. And they're like, cool. Go about the plan of the day. I'm like, right on. So I went back to bed. So and
Obviously.
then I would wake up at like 9:30. I would futz around the house a little bit, do a little of this, do a little bit of that, go to the gym, do some language training, but let's be honest, I mostly just played video games and worked out and
Fuck yeah.
waited to go to Australia. So they did send me on a a 1 week long Iraqi course because I
Nice,
finally
nice.
got word.
You
Finally got word
definitely
that I was.
you definitely
It
can
was
learn a
super
whole
helpful, by the
dialect
way.
in one. Really?
No, not at all.
Yeah, I
I
was
didn't
like,
learn
there's
shit.
no chance, dude. No way.
I learned some alphabet differences, so there are alphabet and pronunciation differences. I learned some of that, and I learned some cuss words, and that's kind of it, honestly.
Fuck yeah, that's what you need, man.
So,
And maybe like a
aside from the
couple,
Iraqi course,
local food, like
yeah,
food varieties and stuff.
aside from the Iraqi course that I had for 1 week, if you could even call it that, I
Yeah.
just went to the gym, played video games, and I was put in contact with an Australian who was from the place that I was going to. So there were two potential places for a linguist to go to, at least to my knowledge, in
Hmm.
Australia. One was Alice Springs, which is in quite literally the middle of the country, which is also outback, which is also nothing. It's just
Right.
desert.
Yeah.
So I was either going to go there to a big collection site, or I was going to go to Canberra, which is the capital.
Hmm.
So I ended up going to Canberra. So before that, they put me in contact with a girl who was on a similar rotation that I was going to do. So she was Aussie and she was living in Georgia, working at Whitelaw as an Aussie like implant into NSA. And so she was from Canberra, like actually lived there, worked there. So
Hmm.
they put me in contact. We chatted a little bit, texted, got to know each other because she was also going back to Canberra after I went back. So we would see each other again, probably in the same shop. Um,
Nice. Good friend to have.
so yeah, so we just talked about Australia, what to expect, what the work pace was like. Couldn't really go into mission details, which is fine. So I ended up going to Australia in like November of 2016.
Okay.
So going there was interesting. The unit, again, if you can call it that, was 3 Marines, including me.
Jesus.
Um, when I got there, I replaced a Lance Corporal, who's a cool dude. We don't talk much, but he was a cool dude.
Hmm.
He he was working the. I was replacing his seat for Arabic, and
Okay.
so the unit was me, a gunny, and a captain,
Nice.
and we all worked in different shops. So
Hell yeah.
I saw them once a week for a coffee,
Oh
or
my,
for me, a glass of water.
oh my god.
Um,
Do you not drink coffee?
I saw them. Nah, I still don't. I never did. No caffeine,
Weirdo.
zero.
How did
So
I
I
not
know,
know
right?
that about you? We've been friends for so long, and like at this point, somehow I managed to get off energy drinks, and now I just essentially mainline Black Rifle Coffee. Shout out to
Yeah.
Black Rifle Coffee, please sponsor me. Um, but I like, how did you make it through an entire Marine Corps career with no caffeine? That's mental.
I just drank water, man. Just pounded water. When I was on duty, I just drank a gallon of water and I don't know, did some squats or jumping jacks just to stay awake. Not like I was like PTing on duty because I was like super motivated for PT. No, I just needed to stay awake. So
Oh
I
my
don't know,
god,
just
you're a
pounded water,
stronger
ate
man than I.
snacks.
Holy moly.
It worked somehow. Hey man. But
Yeah.
so I get to Australia and that was interesting. So normally You go to an English speaking country, or I guess for us, we go anywhere in the US and we feel not so much of an outsider. Like California, yeah, okay, I can fit in here. I just have to, you know, be a little bit nicer to people, be a little bit more politically correct than I would be in Texas. Going to Georgia, I can go back to my roots. I can be as, as vulgar as I want and then some, and I'll still fit in.
Yeah.
Going to Australia was way different. Yeah, we speak the same language, but culturally, we're not that similar.
Hmm.
And you can there are like lots of memes saying that Australians are just British Texans, which is funny, but only partially true.
Like how
So,
so?
um, like Aussie Bogans, which is like their, I don't want to call them trailer park white trash, but they're kind of trailer park white trash.
Gotcha.
It's like they're real country farmer people. They are rowdy like our country folk. Um, they're like the farmers in Australia are like grassroots, honest, pretty genuine people, and their trailer park trash are like our trailer park trash.
Gotcha.
Seedy, not
Yep.
really trustworthy, kind of gross. Aside from those blanket similarities, every culture has those similarities. There's nothing
Hmm.
new about that. But aside from that, the people are just different. Like we would have, we showed up to work. They told me I could show up between 8 and 10. I was like, what? And my gunny said, no, you're showing up at 8. I said, okay, that's fine. I can deal with that. So I
Yeah.
show up
What
to
the
work at
fuck?
8. Yeah, I show up to work at 8. The first 45 minutes of work is just like idly chatting, doing some emails, making tea. I'm not kidding, by the way, making tea. And then like 9:30, so you can like by 8:45 you might be starting work, maybe 8:30 if you're an overachiever. So by 9:30 or 10, we have what's called morning tea. So it's kind of like a morning meeting. So we'd all show up around a table for the shop. So me, like some Kiwis and some Aussies, some Aussie civilians as well. We'd show up around a table, talk about the workday over tea, have a snack, then get back to work. So now it's 10:45. Work is starting.
Uh-huh.
Work is starting again. So you're still working. And granted, people are still working like during morning tea, which
Right.
is called mornos. So you had mornos and arvos, morning tea, afternoon tea. So you do that maybe not every day, but at least a couple times a week. And then you'd still work um, and try to do your job the best you can. But again, I was on an Iraqi mission and I was using, I could use mostly US like tools that we had,
Hmm.
but I couldn't use all of the methods that we use because I was in Australia. So I could use
That makes
most of the
sense. Yeah.
same tools. Yeah, I could use most of the same tools, but not all of the same tools, just because of the location and the mission. So the mission called for different things, so I used different things.
Hmm.
Um, so it's just weird because I was in such a small unit, and I was probably the most different person there. I just kind of kept to myself. Like I hung out with two of the Kiwi boys a little bit because they were just more chill. The Aussies, I learned later. Someone told me it was actually last year when after I've been living here. Aussies are a little can be a little trepidatious about making friends with foreigners because they know they're going to leave eventually.
Mm.
But they're still friendly and polite, but they
Yeah.
might not as gung ho to make plans with you.
Yeah. They might not just want to bro out. Well, I mean, that's also a stereotype about Americans in general in comparison to
Yeah,
other countries is that Americans are aggressively friendly.
yeah, we're friends with everyone, and like if you're not hanging out with work people or somebody else, like you're a loner, you know.
Yeah. Someone was like,
So
someone. I think it was an. I think he was German. I served him at Wild Barrel, and we were talking about friends, and he's like, in America, a friend is really a loose acquaintance, and a best friend is a normal friend.
yep,
I was like,
that's true.
that makes sense. Yeah.
That's true.
Hmm.
So it was just interesting. I didn't really honestly, I didn't have a lot of friends aside from occasionally being acquaintances with the Kiwis. I just kind of stuck to myself.
Hmm.
Smashed it hard in the gym. There were a couple Americans that I got to know. They were also work people. Um, they just worked in the more admin side than I did. So there was they were, God, what was their title? Because there was a U.S. office at ASD, which is Australian Signals Directorate, which
Hmm.
is their version of NSA. So there was a U.S. office implanted there from NSA corporate, and that's where these two people worked. I'll keep them anonymous just for their privacy, but they're great people. So we
Hmm.
spent a lot of time together because we're Americans. We understand the whole friend thing.
Right.
Like, yeah, let's be friends. So we were friends. We hung out a lot. Ended up in a relationship with one of them for a long time, which was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that was kind of my social structure. Like I had those two friends, some work people. I played a little bit of music over there. I like sent some emails out to some community jazz bands and some classical orchestras, and found an instrument to borrow and got to play casually over there, which was nice. So work wise, not very fulfilling because I didn't speak Iraqi, So I was honestly the garbage filter. So we had one
Uh,
Iraqi linguist who was native born, so he could just smash through all this. But there was so much collect that he couldn't get through it all, and he needed someone to help him filter it. So that was me.
oh,
So,
yeah, you were just the sieve.
so yeah, so I just went through
Yeah.
everything first. It was phone. If it was phone sex or just no one picked up, I tossed it out. If it was a conversation that didn't sound like anything, I tossed it out. If there were some keywords I could recognize, I sent it over to him and he would translate.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah,
honestly, not
the
very
amount of phone
exciting.
sex was alarming.
It's staggering.
Yeah.
It's funny. They're freaks. Um, no, but it was not very fun because I would show up and just be the garbage sieve. It wasn't very fulfilling. At least in Georgia, I could translate a couple things. Maybe they ended up on the front page of like NSA news for like. I mean, I did that once, and it was just like the highlight of my NSA career.
That's
Translated
pretty dope.
something, ended up on NSA Net on the little front page. It's like New York Times for little second people. It was on the front page for like a day, and then
That's
it was
rad,
gone.
dude. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's kind
it was
and then
nice.
everyone forgets, but
Yeah, it was like the one big thing that I translated that I was happy about. But in at the mission in Canberra, it was like nothing like that.
mm.
They gave me this when I left. They gave me this plaque and like a hat and a nice handshake from their CEO and all this stuff, and it was really nice, but it didn't really feel accomplished. So, and my contract was also coming up, so Australia kind of spent kind of by myself. I had a birthday over there, which was nice because for once my birthday was a summer birthday, being December. So my birthday
Oh
was
yeah,
hot as
because
shit.
the seasons are opposite.
Yeah, exactly. Christmas was hot as balls,
Oh god.
and I had 2 summers that year, so which is kind of cool. But the
Yeah.
second summer I had was Georgia, which was muggy, which is gross.
Oh yeah.
So
Pea soup
getting
air.
ready to leave Canberra, I was the whole goal for me going to Canberra, aside from like work wise, I had some financial goals. I wanted to save tons of money and pay off all my debt, which
Mm-hmm.
I still had a couple student loans and my car. So I pinched pennies real hard in Canberra. I ate at the chow hall because I was forced to. I didn't get BAH over there like I was promised, so or per diem, I guess, which is like an allowance every day that you're away from home for work. So I didn't get per diem like I was supposed to.
That's a
They didn't
drag.
give me the full rate, which was BS because they put me in the barracks. So
Oh,
the
that's lame.
guy the guy before me and the guy after me got to stay in like a 4-star hotel with like a fat per diem paycheck every day. And the captain wanted to save the Aussies money, and so he put me in the barracks. And the Aussies were actually pissed. They're like, "No, he's a guest. It's not what we do for you guys. This is bullshit. Put him in a nicer barracks, please, because my original room didn't have AC, which
Which in
which was
Australia is a fucking no-no.
yeah, kind of need it in the summer. So they put me in a nicer barracks, which was nice. I was alone, which was cool. But that just further added to the like some isolation issues that were starting to grow.
Mm.
So pinching pennies didn't help the isolation, but I also saved 16 grand and paid off literally all of my debt, which was
Wow.
sick.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Um, so I was leaving Canberra. I was in a relationship with a person who was very generous and very friendly, very fun to be around. Then I was going back to my unit, so I had to leave her behind in my unit. We did long distance that time, and I went back once for like a month. So I came back to my unit for maybe a couple weeks, and then some personal stuff happened on her side, and she really needed me to fly out and be with her. So I took a month of leave because this was also in preparation of my contract expiring. I had PTAD. No, it's not PTAD. What is it? Terminal leave coming up. So I
Right.
had all my vacation days saved up because I didn't take any vacation that year. That because I went to Mark, no vacation, and I went to Canberra, no vacation.
Right.
So I mean, I essentially had 2 vacations of themselves. So that was fine.
Yeah.
So I'm getting ready to go. back to the US for the first time. So I'm penniless, go back to my unit. There's no place for me. It's been honestly 10 months since I worked in the building. So they've absolutely replaced me. There's not even a desk space for me. My headphones passed to me was actually a bro, and I turned in my headphones, as in, I don't need these anymore. Here you go. You can have them back. So when I got back, didn't have headphones to translate with, didn't have a desk, had no place in the shop. So the shop said, okay, if your unit says you can check out, you can check out. And so I went to my
Nice.
unit, and my unit said, if your shop says you can check out, you can check out. So I said, okay. And I went to my shop and I told them that. And then they said, okay, if your unit says you can check out, you can check out. So I was in a loop.
Yep.
So I printed out my checkout sheet.
Mom, can I eat
And
this? Ask your dad. Dad, can
yeah,
I eat this? Ask your mom.
exactly.
Yeah.
Ask your mom, ask your dad. So I printed out my checkout sheet for the building. And then I went to my little platoon sergeant, or actually my squad leader, which was a sergeant. So I go to Sergeant Leach and I give him my checkout sheet and I smile. And then he smiles and he signs it. And then I
Nice.
go to my shop. Then I go to my shop, show them the checkout sheet, and they said, "Okay, you're good to go. Let's start your checkout." So I check out of the building. Um, so I just kind of finessed my way out because I knew I had 2 months left. What are they actually going to put me to work doing for 2 months? They're not
Oh,
going to find me a
you'd be
give me
surprised,
my
man. I had a staff sergeant after I had deissued my SIF gear try to tell me I had to reissue my entire SIF like loadout to be able to
mm,
do a battalion hike three
oh
and a half
god,
weeks before I started terminal.
that's
And
gross.
I told him to pound sand. And thankfully, I had the world's coolest warrant officer tell that guy to go eat shit. But yeah, he
Nice.
he was. You know what? I'll say his name because fuck that guy. Staff Sergeant Coates, and you know him.
Oh, I know that guy.
Yeah,
I can't believe. Holy shit.
yeah, fuck that dude. And
He was so notorious.
yeah, he was a fucking like ginger gorilla, and I hated him. But he legitimately wanted me to. I he was like, "Hey, you're tapped for this battalion hike, next week," and I was less than a month out, and I'm on the watch floor, so I take off my headphones. I'm like, "I'm sorry, what now?" And he goes, you're tapped for this battalion hike. Like, are you ready for it? And I was like, well, I actually have a stamp right here, right next to where it says SIF that says otherwise because I don't have anything anymore. And he was like,
Yeah.
well, but you're on the roster. And I was like, uh, okay, take me off. That's literally your job.
Take me off the roster.
Yeah. And he goes, well, you're probably going to have to go back to SIF. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. And yeah, it literally took me going above his head to a warrant officer and being like, hey, sir, does this make any goddamn sense to you? And he was like, no, go back to your desk. I'll handle it.
No,
I was like,
go back
thank
to
you.
work.
Yeah, I was like, thanks, dude. Like, gee,
Nice.
yeah, idiot.
We didn't even have SIF gear in Georgia. Our unit was so small.
Yeah, it's
The
like
only
DLI. You
thing,
get the Gore-Tex and a
the,
pat on the back.
yep, the only thing we got was a Gore-Tex jacket, and I didn't even get one.
Fuck yeah.
So there was no SIF. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
So I go back, and then I go back to Australia for a month to be with my partner, who's very upset over some traumatic things. So
Right.
then I come back. Um, I come back to the US and finish up my contract, go on my terminal leave, have a blast, go home, get a speeding ticket on the way home,
Nice.
vow to never visit Mississippi again. Stick to that vow because Mississippi can burn to the ground, and I wouldn't be very upset. Um,
All over a speeding ticket, huh?
I, yeah, all over a speeding ticket, just because the cop was like a huge douche nozzle about it.
Okay.
But I start uni, right? So I deal with a little bit of isolation and like mortality issues when I was leaving Georgia and going back to uni. So I'm like, so paint the scene. I'm long distance with my partner at the time, which for me I don't do very well.
Right.
I want my partner with me because they're partner, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
There's a reason I want that person with me. So being apart sucks. And then I'm the old man at university, very much the outcast, not because like I'm some asshole, but just because I don't fit in. And that's, there's nothing wrong with that. You don't fit in with 19-year-olds. It's very different. At least that's how you feel when you first get out. So getting out, I had no idea what to expect. People were like, "Oh, don't kill yourself," whatever. Save money. Here's retirement benefits. I'm like, bro, I'm 24. I don't have retirement benefits yet because the TAPS classes that I was in was, and it was honestly, I was put in probably the wrong class because everyone in there was actually retiring except me and maybe two others who were like,
That's
still had
hilarious.
youthfulness. So it was interesting because they didn't really talk about GI Bill. They talked about benefits and retirement benefits and like resume selection and companies who are giving officer offers and businesses and shit. So I'm just trying to go back to uni, man. So I figure out all this GI Bill bullshit on my own. Um, so I figure out
Which
the
to
GI
this
Bill on
day
my
you're
own.
still the authority on. I still go to you for all of that
It
information
just makes sense,
because
man. I had to do so much reading to figure it out and really understand what I was getting into.
yeah.
And then I go and I file for disability from from the VA, like you're supposed to, or at least like I was told when I got out.
Hmm.
And so when well, let's back up to that. So I'm filing for disability. I'm like, all right, what do you want to file for? And I was like, I don't know. They're like, well, what does your medical record say? I was like, well, the one thing I did, which was just kind of arbitrary, it felt arbitrary at the time. I documented everything. Every time I got the sniffles, every time something hurt after PT, every time, like, not every time I got a bruise, because, like, I'm not a huge weenie. But every time something significant happened that hindered me for like a week, I documented. And so I said,
Smart.
okay, let me get my medical records and come back to the VA. So the VA rep on base in Georgia, she was asking me after we had my medical records, she's like, all right, let's look through this. You have a back injury, which was quite significant. Like I showed up to DLI on crutches and almost had surgery. Um, I had like some ankle shit, some shoulder shit, like everybody else. Your joints just get fucked.
Yep.
So she filed for all of those, which isn't to say that like I'm an invalid, but she's like, hey, you had an injury. It caused some significant delay in something, so you're gonna file for it. I said, okay. So I filed for that, and she asks me about like mental health, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, I went through a divorce, and the Marine Corps kind of, in a part, kind of ruined my marriage because of like stress and unit stuff and all this crap. She's like, yeah, okay. So file for like some anxiety and some depression. And I was like, well, yeah, that is kind of true. I did self-report for suicidal thoughts when I was going through my divorce, and I got like immediate counseling for a couple weeks.
Right.
Um, because just divorce, general feeling like shit. So
Yeah.
when I was filing for disability, I didn't really think anything of this. I was like, I'll be happy if I get a couple bucks a month. And so when I go to get evaluated, I've EAS'd because the VA evaluation is done through a third party health facility in your home state usually. So if you stick around where you EAS, you'll get evaluated there. If you go home to your home of record, you'll get evaluated near your home of record. So I peace out to Texas. I start uni, and then the VA is like, "Hey, we want to have someone evaluate you. Go to this facility, and they'll evaluate pretty much everything." So I go, and it's almost like going to MEPS, except not quite so severe, and they're a lot
Oh.
more polite.
Oh, okay, good.
Uh, they're way more polite because it's just you. That's not like a billion people for you to go through. It's an actual like private health facility. You go there, they pay you for your time, which is like $40 because you have to drive there. So they give you some gas money, and then all the professionals. I got another hearing test. They're like, okay, your hearing kind of sucks. I'm like, oops, okay.
Well, you did
They
listen
test like,
to
yeah,
people yell for through
yeah,
high quality headphones for however long.
exactly. A lot of guns, a lot of headphone usage. So
Yeah.
I had some hearing loss. I had some shoulder mobility issues, some wrist and ankle mobility issues. The back was a big one, and then comes time for the evaluation for mental health. And I didn't really think anything of it. I just kind of talked about like stress and general depression and anxiety issues, which we all feel are kind of normal in the Marine Corps, but are actually not. So you shouldn't actually feel like that a lot, even though we do.
Yep.
Because high op tempo and like stress and strenuous work can absolutely contribute to that and cause some depression and anxiety. And so I was at the facility, and he's just interviewing me, asking me about my life, like, what are you looking forward to? How are you doing? Like, how are you, man? It's like honestly, not too great. Like
Yeah,
I'm
shit's
kind of
lame,
scared.
dude.
yeah, like I'm kind of scared. My partner is living overseas. I'm having some mortality issues, like freaking out about dying. Like puts me into a panic. Can't function sometimes. Like
Hmm.
find it really hard to go to class right now because I don't fit in with anybody. And he's like, "Damn, son." I mean, he didn't say it like that, but he's a medical professional.
Doctor
So
speak. It'd be quite like
yeah, so
yeah.
he's like, "Damn, dude, it really be like it is." But he, he said he understood, and he like gave me some weird diagnosis, which is just like, "Hey, you're depressed a little bit. You got some anxiety." So okay. Um, so I get my evaluation back a couple months later. It's like, holy shit. Uh, I don't feel like I'm that disabled, but okay. Um, and then I'm at uni. So struggling to fit in, right? Social isolation, which is the big one for me because,
Mm,
go to Canberra, Australia for the first time, socially isolated from many people of a like culture. Like there are no Marines around me all the time. It's me and a gunny and a captain. The gunny's got kids, a wife and kids. He's a cool dude. The captain's got a wife. He does captain things. So I
yep.
don't see them. They don't have Marine Corps culture over there. So then I go back and to my unit, and there's no place for me there. So there's kind of more self isolation. And then I go back to Texas for uni, even more social isolation because I don't know any veterans in Texas aside from my childhood best friend, Jared.
Hmm.
So I hang out with him. He he's great. And then I go to uni and it's not great. So I was talking to one of my professors because she was former Navy band. She went to Juilliard, then she went to Navy band or Navy band and then
Wow.
Juilliard. I can't remember. But she was a trombone professor at University of North Texas.
Hmm.
And I asked, her, like, dude, how do you fit in here? Like, how do you? Because I was starting to lose my cool a little bit. I would see kids in the student lounge with feet on furniture, and like Marine Corps me like twitched, like, get your fucking feet off the table, man.
Yeah.
Um, or kids
That's
relate to
just
class,
gross.
or
Yeah.
yeah, it is gross, especially now. Like kids
Yeah.
relate to class, kids were talking in class, kids relate to rehearsal, kids relate to sectionals, like the trombone section rehearsing privately for something. Kids relate. Kids were kids. They're 19. They're 18. This is their first time being somewhat responsible for themselves.
And they kind of
Even though a
suck
lot
at
of them
it
still lived
usually.
at home. Yeah, and we all
Yeah.
suck at it
Yeah.
everywhere. Like go back to DLI barracks. It was a fucking rodeo, man.
Yeah. DLI Barracks was the Wild West.
It was
I
because
talked about T City with a little while ago. I forget what episode that was, but yeah, the T City was fucking mental. Like the shit that we got,
Jeez.
the shit that I, I don't want to say we because I still don't hold myself as like a full member of T
Yeah.
City because I transplanted into them after they already had their legendary status. But
Yeah.
yeah, but like the shit that went down up there, dude. God, it's a luck. It's a miracle
It
that
was wild.
yeah, it's a miracle that we all got our good cookies and a lot of us didn't. But
One of the guys from T City moved into my room, and so T City, I can't say it migrated or I was part of it, but they ended up in my place a couple times. Like, oh no.
yeah,
Um,
you're like, oh
but
fuck.
but yeah, but with that culture, you have like brotherhood, you have companionship, you have
Yeah,
a
yeah, big
shared
time.
experience. So it was actually like really cool.
Hmm.
Um, so it was just it was just hard getting out because you leave. I mean, it feels like you leave all your friends behind. You're still friends. It's not like you're never going to see each other,
Yep.
but you're not going to see each other every day like you did. You won't see each other at morning formation.
Yep.
Or, I mean, again, Fort Gordon, morning formation for our unit was us hanging out at the skiff in the cafe at a table, drinking coffee and chatting with our gunny. So that was our morning formation. And it was actually really nice
Yeah,
because we
I'm
got to
sure.
see each other. Everyone got to say hello. Everyone got to chat for a little while. And then you went to work and then you might have PT or you might have a unit function that week, and you get to see all those people again, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
But when you get out, especially when you leave, then you're not going to see those people that much anymore.
Hmm.
So you're gonna end up, either trying to make more friends or not making the same friends, or maybe even the same quality of friends at the same at first. At first,
Yeah.
and I say that because it gets better. Like my first 6 months of getting out really sucked. Super depressed, super anxious. Aside from my diagnosis that I got from the VA, I didn't actually get any help. Like they didn't really say like, hey, you've got some depression and anxiety. Go see this counselor every week. Or go to this like group therapy, or go join this sport, or go do this community thing to be involved with people and to be happy again. They didn't outright give me that information, but I also didn't really look for it because it wasn't on my mind. What was on my mind was how shit this is.
Yeah.
Um,
It's hard to dig
and
yourself out of
eventually,
that hole.
yeah, it's really hard. And eventually, my partner moved back to the US. She got a transfer from Maryland to Texas. So she was going to go to San Antonio and set up over there at the site there.
Hmm.
And so I was like, okay, well, I don't want to do long distance anymore. So how about I just move there with you? She's like, oh, what about school? You really want to go to this music school? Because she was a big influence to me of why I went to pursue music instead of like other military shit or translating stuff that I could have.
Right.
And it wasn't fulfilling, and so music was fulfilling. So she encouraged me to do that. The question she asked me, and I still remember, was, if you didn't have to worry about money, what would you want to do? It's like, play trombone. Duh. Like, that's great. I love playing music. She's like, okay, do that. It's settled. I was like, oh, okay. So that
Sometimes it
was
is
kind of like,
that
hey,
easy.
dummy. Yeah. So I was like, oh shit, okay.
Well, because it's
Um,
hard. It's hard to remove the
exactly.
that financial burden and incentive. Because I mean, I remember talking to you when I first got out, and the plan for me was either first it was stockbroker or something,
Yeah.
and then medicine, and a lot of that was finance driven. You know,
Yeah.
orthopedic surgeons make a fucking grip of money, but the amount of effort that it would have taken to, I've talked about this, the amount of effort that it would have taken to do that would have had to come at the expense of probably having a family
Mm,
or anything like that. And now the career path that I've chosen, still will be fulfilling in the sense of helping others. And it's a pretty significant pay cut from the absurd amount of money that surgeons make, but
yeah.
it'll ideally be just as fulfilling. But yeah,
Yeah.
the idea of doing what you love and you don't have to work a day in your life sounds awesome until that rent bill hits. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So it was a weird mix of like financial, what's going to be, how can I support like me and my partner, and also like what's a respectable job that I'm interested in that I would fit in with. And
Mm,
I went the complete opposite of that. I went to a job that I don't fit in with at the time, which was musician, and arguably respectable or not respectable depending on who you are as a person and what your values are, which is fine.
right.
But I went like clear opposite of Marine Corps, which was military, and I went into fine arts. So
That's true.
very very strange environment to go into. And then so I ended up moving to San Antonio with my partner, and that was okay. It just meant that I was further from family, but fuck it, dude. I've lived in Australia already. Like, I've
Yeah,
been
can't
pretty
really get
far away from
further
my
away.
family.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I can't really. So I was okay with that. I mean, it's not actually that far to be away from family, compared to Australia. So moved to San Antonio and start going to school there, and immediately kind of regret it because at least when I was in Denton at the University of North Texas, I had a professor who was a veteran. I had my childhood best friend. I had some high school close friends that were around, and I had family. And then I moved to San Antonio. Best friend's not around. He lives in North Texas. Family's not around. They're also in North Texas. That professor, North Texas, and the trombone professor at that school, not around all the time because he's only a part-time professor because that school
Oh,
was a lot smaller in music program.
right.
So the program was smaller, of less quality because they focused on music education and not music performance.
Oh,
So
so more like music theory and teaching music, or
yes, teaching music. So teaching band, like teaching high school band.
oh, okay,
That's their biggest focus. And I want to be a full-time performer
right.
because I started teaching high school trombone casually, not like
Hmm.
on a contract, but just casually while I was attending uni over there. And that actually helped, I feel like, quite a bit. So being with my partner helped mentally. That was great. Um, I didn't make a lot of friends in San Antonio at the time, just because I was either at school and didn't fit in, or I was at home with my partner and happy.
Hmm. Yeah.
So there was a bit of social isolation. And I didn't go to a gym because I owned all my gym equipment in the garage, which was like a glorious dream setup. Um, but still, I didn't have that community of like you go to the gym, you see your bros, or you see people, and you just like wave at each other.
Yeah,
So still a little bit depressed. I could play with my friends online, which we did, but it's not quite the same as seeing them or being part of like a team or something.
definitely.
So the isolation continued, and I ended up leaving San Antonio because my partner and I split up. I stayed for another semester, moved in with two active duty people, one civilian side, but worked in criminal investigation, and then one was Air Force, but also worked in criminal investigation in the same unit.
Hmm.
So they're, oh, I forget what their job title was, but it was pretty dope. So they were like tracking down bad dudes inside the military all the time, drug dealers,
Whoa,
creeps. Yeah, they were putting people away like every month. It was cool.
that's dope.
Um, Living with them was dope. We had a cute little house. We all got along really well. We hung out a lot together, which was nice. They introduced me to people, which was nice. So my social circle started to grow a little bit,
Hmm.
and I was a little happier. I was a little happier socially, maybe not career wise, because that school wasn't where I wanted to be. So then I move again. So I decide one of the hangups that my partner had was she was unhappy being in Texas, which for me kind of sucked because I was very happy to be back in Texas. I'd
Yeah,
missed it.
Texas
I'd
people
missed,
do love Texas
yeah.
more than anything.
We love our food. We love our big open space. We love our big sky, our sunsets, our big trucks, and all that shit, and our Mexican food. And
Yeehaw,
but
brother.
she missed Australia. She fell in love with the place, and she didn't want to go to Maryland because she said Maryland was blah. She'd already lived there for like 5 years. She hated it, or maybe didn't love it. Maybe hate is the wrong word, but she wasn't in love with that place like she was with Australia. So pretty much every day for her was a little bit sad because she wasn't in Australia, which for me sucked because like this is my home. I'm excited you're here, and you're not excited to be here. That's not cool.
Yeah, that's a drag.
Um, yeah, and so she still had some mental struggles to get through, and eventually she needed to go her own way. And I was like, "Yep, yeah, that's cool. That sucks, but I'll respect it." And so we
It's
split up.
very, very noble of you.
Yeah, I mean it wasn't ugly. We still never fought, but it wasn't the most fantastic way you want a relationship to go, you know?
Yeah, of course not.
Ideally, you want like the relationship to be fruitful and stay.
Yeah,
But so I ended up her hang up was I can't go back to Australia and I don't know how. She tried working visa, got denied a couple times for various detailed reasons. And I
yeah.
said,
Isn't
"Well,
it
what if I
like
take a
damn near
job over there?"
impossible to go? Isn't
It's
it
just
like
hard.
yeah? Because they're
They
very,
wanted,
very selective about who they bring
yeah,
over.
they're picky because a lot of people want to come live here because it's growing.
Yeah,
So they she just got denied for like, oh, this uni class is a little too old, please take a more current one. Like it's just lame shit. So I thought, I offered like, what if I take a military job over there? What if I take a band military job over there? What if I do this? What if I do that? She's like, no, it's not going to work. So I was like, fine. So then we end up splitting up. I was like, you know what, fuck this, I'm going to go to Australia. I liked it over there. I wasn't
almost,
in love with
almost.
it.
I was gonna say almost out of spite, but I do remember how
It
much you did
was.
love
It
it
was
over
a
there.
little bit out of spite, but it's less so spite and more like, dude, I told you you can go back to Australia if you really want to, and I'm gonna fucking do it to prove to you that you can. That was a little bit of the motivation. I
Yeah,
also had researched like the music school, and Melbourne Uni is like the biggest school in Australia, which that's nice, but Australia is only like 23 million people, so it's not the biggest thing in the world.
yeah. It's
Um,
half as many as
but
California.
yeah, um, but the staff at the music school, the staff were good. I learned like the teachers, Don Immel, he's an American trombone player, very, very high quality teacher, very high quality player, very highly recommended. Benjamin Anderson, another Aussie based trombonist, very highly recommended by lots of people. My teacher, Mike Zabo,
Mm.
ungodly skilled player, works for the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra. Very, very highly recommended. So I was happy. It's like, you know what? I haven't gotten to learn from, like, I learned from a graduate student at UNT who's a great player. Um, but he hadn't won a job yet. He was still doing his DMA. So he's still doing a doctorate in trombone performance.
Hmm.
Um, and I didn't get as much time with him as I wanted to because he also had a billion other students. And in San Antonio, I was with a tenor trombonist, which I play bass trombone, so it's different. And he was around part time,
Ugh.
so that kind of sucked. So
Just
now
the
I'm here.
resources weren't there. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this school's pretty wealthy, and the staff has lots of money, or maybe not the staff themselves, but the program has lots of money, and they just built a brand new facility, and like the program's growing. It's a good time to join. So I joined. Um, and this was the kind of like the biggest social isolation move that I did, but it paid off. So I get here. I've been to Australia before. I was feeling less of an outcast, more like, hey, I've been here before. This is all right. I know how it goes. Um, and then I get introduced to the student cohort, the trombone studio, as a trombonist and not as, hey, this is some old veteran dude. So that's already a step in my favor.
Oh,
So
yeah,
instead
that
of
makes
being,
sense. You're not the
yeah,
one
so instead
crusty
of
vet.
being
You're
like,
just
hey,
one of the
here's your new
guys.
student from the United States Marine Corps, it's, hey, here's your new student from Texas. And they're like, oh, dude, did you go to UNT? And I said, yes, actually, I did. And they're like, holy shit, that school's awesome. We love the jazz program. Like, their trombones, like, they have so many trombone players. I'm like, yeah, dude, it was cool. I didn't tell them that it kind of sucked because I was old and didn't fit in with a lot of people, but the program itself at UNT was really cool.
Yeah.
So it was really exciting to go there and experience that. And so coming here, I was introduced as a trombone player. I was an American. I was going to study with some American trombone players here. I was like going to finish my undergraduate and then move on to like cool things. And so the vibe was just like a lot nicer and a lot more tight knit than it was in Texas. And not to Texas' discredit, but the program was just so big. Um,
Yeah.
and you're also one of many American trombone players. And over here, I'm not. So I'm a little bit, not to like toot my own horn, pun intended, but a little bit of an a
Nicely
little bit
done,
of an
sir.
oddity. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So a little bit of an oddity. So like one, you're American, which you're foreign, so people are a little bit interested, and two, you're an American trombone player from a school that we all like. So again, still interesting. So that
Everything
kind
in
of
your
helped
favor.
me,
Yeah.
yeah, that helped me get introduced to people. That didn't mean that I was like the top dog and I'm like, the biggest, baddest player. That just meant like, hey, people were at least open to talking to me and getting to know me a little bit.
That's
So
cool.
it's pretty much as soon as I got here, I started making friends, which was awesome. And I started playing together with people. I started going to a gym where people were friendly with me. Um, and I just started to find my stride. And I think what made that change for me was going somewhere very different. And it kind of seems a little bit counterintuitive. You think, oh, if I want to fit in, I need to stay with people that I'm more like and that I can fit in with. But if you're a veteran and you've just gotten out and gone back to school, you already don't fit in where you think you belong. You think you belong in your home state, which many of you do, and that's fine. And you can make it work. But for me, it didn't work because I went back to my home state and the majority of my friends moved away or had jobs or had wives or had kids.
Hmm.
And so I didn't fit in with them as much. I still had a friendship and a bond. But if you look at like my daily life here and what that looks like, I go to school, I see people that I know and that know me and are happy to see me, and we talk. And then I play with them on the weekends. Like I'll go to school on a Saturday and I lead like a fundamental basic trombone session, and a couple people will show up and play for 2 hours. None of that happened in Texas. At Texas, I was a faceless dude who just so happened to be in the military, and nobody cared.
Right.
Not that they need to care. That was just a career choice, but I already felt like an outcast because I didn't feel like I belonged. So that
Yeah.
sucked. And in here, yeah, there's a little bit of like outcast and not belong feeling, but it's way better. Like just because I was a veteran, that's also further in the past. So that helped. So the chip isn't on my shoulder anymore. The whole belonging to the
Yeah.
Marine Corps identity, like, oh, I'm a Marine. Like, I mean, I was a Marine, and there's the once a Marine, always a Marine thing, but that's not what I do. I play
Yeah.
trombone, man. Like, I'm in
Yeah.
fine arts. I'm in like the most opposite thing that I can be in. So you need to adapt. You need to, again, the Marine Corps saying, what was it? Overcome, adapt, change, overcome, improvise, adapt, overcome. That's
Yeah.
what it is. You need to do that. You need to change to your environment if you're going to succeed.
And sometimes
And
you just
that's
need a
what
change of scenery because, like,
Mhm.
if it's just like you said, I think a big problem that people have is they try to pick up their lives before the Marine Corps where they left off.
Exactly.
And then part of the problem comes from them not anticipating or planning for the fact that life has gone on in their absence.
Yep.
You know, if I
Everything is changing.
exactly, and you know, every day, let alone over the course of a 5-year enlistment. You know, if I had
Yep.
moved back to Northern California right after I got out, literally the only people that I would have seen regularly from my time before the Marine Corps would be one of my good friends who is still there, and he's doing you know, he's in college and stuff. But other than him, it's just my parents. Like
Yeah.
literally everybody else that I was close to has moved on and moved away and is starting a family or a life in a different city. I would have
Yeah.
gone back and I would have been bored senseless
I
because
was, man. When I was in Texas, it was the most boring thing out there. No one was around.
yeah, there's nothing to do. It's not like, you know, you can just pick up with the boys and uh you know, go frequent the old haunts of, you know, your time before the Marine Corps. And the other thing too is you can't impose the expectation of the dynamics of your friendships with your friends in the barracks and in the Marine Corps on civilian friends, because it's like you mentioned earlier, it's not the same. Like you don't see them as often as you would in the Marine Corps. You don't see them at morning formation and at PT and at work, and when you're working, you're going to the gym afterwards, and when you're drinking and playing video games at night, and when you're going to chow and everything in between.
Yep.
It's
You
not,
see them
that's not
all the time.
feasible. Yeah, it's not realistic. And so I mean, I honestly think that one of the absolute worst things you could do, military or not, is stay in your hometown.
Yeah.
I think you have to get out and just experience something, because I mean, I know people from high school who, if I have zero interest in going to my 10-year my 10-year god damn it, what are those things called? The
High school
reunion.
reunion.
Yeah, thank you. I
Yeah.
could not remember the word reunion. Jesus. But I have zero intent of going to my 10-year reunion, but if I was to go, I would probably run into people who, you know, haven't set foot outside of the greater Sacramento, spoiler alert, I'm from the Sacramento area, but, you know, haven't left the greater Sacramento metro area since we graduated. Like maybe
Yeah.
for, you know, a cruise down to Cabo or something, or, you know, a little jaunt down to Tijuana or something, but like they still are frequent, you know, they're still going to the same bars and, you know, seeing the same people in concert at the Sleep Train Amphitheater, like, you know, twice a year, and then maybe going to Coachella, and that's their life. They just never left. And dude, I mean, I would die. Like if I was still doing the same shit with the same people, like even when I see
Mm-hmm.
people posting on social media with the same group of friends that they ran with in high school, like that's so alien to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't relate. And I feel like people do that with they try to do that with the military because they don't want to let go of those good things, you know, that those tight friendships that you know, you're
Mm.
fulfilling and contributing to all the time because you're constantly together. You know, those people don't want to give that up. Like
No, they don't.
I experienced a lot of trouble, um, you know, not being able to play. Like it was hard for me to accept not being able to play video games with you and Jared and those, you know, the guys that we were regularly gaming with all the time because of
Yeah.
normal life responsibilities. Like that sucked for
Yeah.
me
Right.
because I was like, no, you know, I need that time with the boys. Like I need to, you know, keep the, like Plankton from SpongeBob, like don't let the flame die out. It's like
Yeah.
you know, I need to keep that going, and it took a long,
Mm-hmm.
it took a little while for me to be like, well, no, it's okay to be an adult, and you know, they're good friends. They're not gonna give up on you because you didn't show up to play Apex Legends that one time or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah,
No,
man,
the friends are
that's
different, man. Like
uh,
your military friends are military friends, and it's okay that they're different. But you
yeah,
can't expect your civilian friends to be like your military friends.
yeah. I think people
Your
have
civilian friends didn't have the same training. They're not as nasty as your military friends. We're freaks, man.
yeah, we're
We're
gross.
nasty. We've got no personal boundaries, dude. Like I can't tell you how many times Jared has grabbed my butt cheeks or my dick to make a joke, and it's funny.
Yeah,
But if you do that to your civilian friends, like that's gross, man. They
yeah,
they
it's
freak
weird.
out. It's not cool.
Yeah, I always say
You
that
can't
the
even get to that
military
point.
is a lot like the internet in the sense that you see a lot of dicks that you don't mean to see. You just accidentally are like, wow, that's a penis. Okay.
It's like the
And
most homoerotic experience you could ask for.
yeah, just a bunch of violently straight guys doing the most homosexual things all the time. But it's okay because we're wearing boot bands. That's the rule.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I get it though, man. But I'm really glad that you were able to. You're right. It is counterintuitive that you felt so much more at home in literally a foreign country. That is counterintuitive, but that is really cool. And I hope that somebody, I hope that people can take something from that in the sense that, you know, if they're on the fence about going to, a local JC or
Mhm.
picking up and, moving somewhere completely new to pursue something, I would say fucking go for it, man.
Yeah,
Like,
you
for
can't go
sure.
back to the same life and expect it to be the same. You're gonna be disappointed.
Yeah.
It's just like when we were getting ready to leave the Marine Corps. It's like, oh, the grass is green. It's gonna be fucking dope when I get out. Gonna be able to do this. Gonna be able to do that. Gonna smoke weed all the time. Gonna drink all the time. Play video games. Gonna get fat and nasty. Gonna hang out with my friends. No formation. No haircuts. None of this shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then you do some of that for a couple weeks, and it's boring after a while. Like,
Yeah.
you the Marine Corps gives you structure that you can be happy with, that satisfies you socially because you see lots of people, and then you're like, ah man, fuck these people. I can't wait to get out and just be on my own. And then you're on your own. You're like, oh wow, I'm actually really lonely. This kind of sucks. Where are my friends? Like they're in the military, dog.
Yep.
They're moving on with their life. All your friends that you went to school with are also moving on. That's not to say they've forgotten you, but they got shit to do too, and now you got shit to do.
Mm-hmm.
So you
It's
really
not, your
like
friendships aren't built in anymore.
no,
Yeah.
no, they're not provided for you. They're not always going to be there because they're be there for work and just so happen to be your friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Now your friends have other obligations that they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
They've got focuses and career moves to make.
And kids and
So
wives and
yeah,
husbands and
exactly. They got life, man. Everyone's got life.
yeah.
But yeah, the big change for me was, I guess you could say, just uprooting and starting over somewhere completely new without any expectations.
Yeah. And that took
No
that took
expectations,
serious
no
cojones.
prior conceived idea. Yeah, you just go there and you're like, okay, I'm gonna make of this what it is.
Yeah. And so are you still at the I'm going to butcher the pronunciation cuz I've heard Melbourne, Melbourne and Melbourne all be
Melbourne.
pronunciations. Melbourne?
Melbourne, Bin, Melbourne.
Melbourne.
I'm still
Gotcha.
I'm still at the Melbourne Conservatory, and I'll
Okay.
be here until the end of this year. And then my plan is to even further uproot and move to Germany for a master's.
Yeah, which is fucking wild. You were in Germany pretty recently with your current partner, right?
Yeah, with my girlfriend Johanna.
Right.
So she's from Germany. So the plan is to move to Germany for a master's program. I went there for Christmas holiday. I spent Christmas here, flew out the day after, and then had Christmas with my girlfriend and her family. And Germany was really cool. It was really pretty, really interesting, extremely different, and that's going to be, I think, a good challenge because I don't speak the language yet. I'm in classes.
Mhm.
My girlfriend's German, so she can help. Um, but it's I think it's going to be a really fun challenge for me because I already don't mind moving around and
Yeah.
going somewhere new. I've already done that a couple times at this point. So I think this will be a lot of fun. And if it sucks, hey, that's fine. I'll just finish my master's in Germany and move somewhere else.
Yeah.
If everything goes south, which it shouldn't, like our relationship is great right now. Like we've got nice plans to settle down in Germany, and I'm gonna try to win a job in Germany. But you need goals, and that's something that I didn't have when I was getting out. My
Mhm.
goal was like, okay, I'm gonna go to school, I guess,
Yeah.
Like there was no, I didn't really have any long-term goals, and that's another thing that helped me aside from like just being around people.
Yeah.
Like I joined a skate group, which I'm not very active in now because school is like taking over. But now I'm very involved with school and the people in school, so I'm making a little social circle for myself there, which is good. But you need goals, you need coping mechanisms that aren't drugs and alcohol,
Yeah.
because
Big
the Marine
time.
Corps definitely gives you a lot of drinking experience. But what they don't often tell you, and sometimes they do, depending on your unit, what they don't often tell you is alcohol is a depressant. So if you're already sad and you drink, it's just going to be even shittier, man.
Yeah.
You need to go to the gym. And I'm not saying these are cures, but the gym helps. Having a team sport to play on helps. Having regular friends that you see help. All of those things help. Like sitting at home and drinking or smoking weed all the time or whatever your coping mechanism is that is like a depressant or a stimulant. Those things are only temporary. They only help your brain cope for a temporary, and they fill those receptors in your brain temporarily, and then your brain stops producing that chemical. That chemical could be dopamine or serotonin or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So if you use those stimulants or those substances to substitute like general wholesome life, then you're going to be without general wholesome life because your brain stops producing those chemicals. And I'm not an expert, but hey man, I go to the gym a couple times a week. I go to the climbing gym frequently. I swim. I do some rollerblading, not so much anymore, but I do things that make me feel good, that also stimulate me physically and mentally, so that I feel like, I don't know, I'm just tired at the end of the day and I can go to bed and rest, you know?
Yeah, restful
It's not like
sleep is another huge thing because that
yeah,
was that was a big problem that I was having when I was smoking like a crazy amount of
mm,
weed is you can't enter REM sleep when you're stoned. So
okay.
if you smoke weed right before bed, which is what I was doing cuz I was using it to
Mm,
help fall asleep, you're not getting actual restful sleep for the first 2 to 3 hours that you're quote unquote asleep. So,
interesting.
what I found was happening is I would wake up in the morning and I would be exhausted, or I would sleep for 13 hours in order to feel rested.
Yeah.
And that's not conducive to a healthy,
No.
productive lifestyle. And again, I was talking about this with Brandon last episode. You know, weed is good, I think, in moderation. And that's where
Mm,
a lot of people fuck it up. It's not addictive physically, it definitely can be psychologically. Alcohol is a little bit different. It, obviously is physical. And in my opinion,
yeah.
there are a lot more negative things that are attached to alcohol. But
Hmm.
like alcohol, if you're sad and you're like, man, I'm just gonna smoke weed and everything's gonna be good. No, no, no. You're just gonna get high and sad. Like, it doesn't make you happy. It makes
No.
you high, and it can
Yeah.
help. Like if I'm gonna watch a movie and I'm in a bad mood, like
Hmm.
if I smoked and then watched the movie, I enjoyed it a lot. But the if you're just like, man, I'm fucking bummed, like I'm just gonna smoke and it'll be better. No, it won't. And the big thing, the gym has been a crucial thread through I think all of the episodes that I've had so far. And I just it granted we all come from the military and there is an intrinsic level of reliance on physical fitness and um or not reliance per se, but and a desire to be physically fit, and what it feels like to be in good shape. And
Hmm.
I don't think I've ever gone to the gym and come home and been like, I don't think I should have done that. I regret that.
Yeah, even if you're feeling like shit and you're lazy and you go to the gym, you still get the endorphins and the pump, and
Yeah.
you still go home. You're like, that was decent. Like it might have been a hard session. Johanna's asked me a couple times when I came home from a squat day, like, how'd it go? I was like, oh, it was kind of rough. But
Oh yeah.
kind of rough to me means it didn't things didn't move as fast as I wanted to. Like my numbers didn't go as fast as I wanted to, or
Right.
the reps weren't as easy, or I couldn't do as many today. Like that, I still got in a good workout. I did more than a lot of people sometimes do,
Yeah.
and like. No, I'm not the strongest. I go to a gym with fucking actual national competitors. Like I'm the tiny dude at the gym. but I'm still putting in my work and I still feel good when I go home. That's enough. You don't
Yeah,
need to be fucking He-Man to be happy with your progress in the gym or to feel good from a lift. You can
definitely.
just go for a jog or be a mediocre swimmer like I am. I can swim for maybe 30 minutes at a time, swimming laps for 30 minutes, and I'm gassed at the
God,
end.
I
But
couldn't do that,
I feel
dude. Fuck
I
yeah.
feel decent. Like you
Yeah.
feel good when you're done.
Yeah, big time. And then, in that it's kind of there's a cascade effect. I was listening to an interview with Hugo Martin. I'm a big fan of the Joe Rogan Experience, as
Mm,
is everybody on Earth. But his one of his more recent episodes was one of the I think it was the creative director from id Software, and he's they make Doom and like Quake and all those like
nice.
first gen 3D first person shooters. So, revolutionary stuff. This guy's a fucking genius. And he was like, "Yeah, I just felt like shit all the time because I would get home from a crazy day of coding and, smash a giant bowl of spaghetti and then go to sleep." So I was, 30 pounds overweight. And
Yeah.
so what he started to do was he started doing jujitsu. And it kind of forcibly fixed his life slowly because
Mm,
he changed his eating habits to be able to catch up to his exercise habits. He just started going to the gym, or well,
mm-hmm.
training jujitsu, and then fixing his diet and his portions came naturally because he's like, well, he's an intelligent guy, so he drew the connection quickly. But he was
Mm-hmm.
saying, if I go to the gym and I've had, you know, game meat and green leafy vegetables, I feel one way, and if I eat 6 Twinkies and a Snickers bar and I go to the gym, I feel a different way. And I
Right.
like the first way better. So it just kind of happened organically, pun
Mm-hmm.
also sort of intended. And I think that's a big thing that people don't really appreciate. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's a partially a reason why you don't see these fucking gorillas in the gym, or these yogis that can bend themselves into pretzels eating McDonald's 3 days a week, or 3 meals a
No.
day. It's partially because they have an idea of what they're putting in their body, but it's also because they've probably tried that before and felt like dog shit, and they don't
Yeah,
want
dude.
to feel like dog shit. So they found, well, chicken and rice is doesn't make me feel like dog shit, so I'll stick to that. And then
Right.
eventually they just find themselves eating healthily. And that was a big thing for me, dude. Like when I started going back to the gym, I'm well,
Mm-hmm.
it's shut down. It's shut down for the moment, thanks coronavirus. But when I first started going back, I I kind of had that same aha moment as Hugo Martin. I was like, listen, dude, to myself. I was like, listen, dude, you can't stop, or you can't keep eating, BJ's restaurant and brew house leftovers, 2 meals a day, and expect to go to a CrossFit gym and not fucking black out on the floor. Like
Right.
you got to eat something decent. And then between the exercise and the sudden, uptick in my diet, I felt great. Like I felt
Mm-hmm.
way better all the time. And so,
Yeah, you feel really good.
yeah. And I think you know, again, the gym, and I'm not trying to downplay the effect and the tenacity of legitimate mental illness, because I
Right.
do try to treat mental illness as a sickness or a disease, not, hey, just buck up, you'll be good. Like it's
Yeah.
not like
Without
that.
bootstraps. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Legit
Anybody
thing.
who's really experienced it knows that it's not that way. Um so I'm not trying to downplay the severity and how hard it is to deal with sometimes. So I'm not saying that going to the gym and or doing burpees on your bathroom floor or on your bedroom floor and eating, healthy for a couple weeks is going to fix all your problems. But it sure as fuck won't hurt. When you're feeling, cuz one thing that I found was that the less active I was, especially coming from an active background in the military and sports and stuff like that, I was acutely aware of how inactive I was being, and I felt shitty about it. you know, like
Yeah,
not only was I not being active, and that was affecting how I physically felt, I also felt guilty about the fact that I knew I was eating like shit, and I knew I should be going to the gym and wasn't. So I was like, man, it was kind of a double whammy of making you feel shitty.
it's
But
harder when it's not up to you. When the Marine Corps tells you, "Hey, go to the chow hall, eat this food," and you have to be at unit PT, and also you also have to look good in your uniforms and weigh a certain amount. Like that's they're kind of it's a very strict way and maybe a little bit, but they have your best interest at heart. I mean, they also want you to be healthy and fit for warfighting. But
right,
hey, man, being healthy and fit has never hurt me in that kind of way, like mentally. I've never
right,
been like, oh man, my body feels great today. Like I got restful sleep. I had a great meal. I feel like shit now. It's
yeah,
always been
exactly,
like, like I might be a little bit depressed, but it's not because of those things. It might be from some other factor. But if I go to the gym, it might make me feel a little bit better. It's not going to cure me, but hey, I might feel a little bit better that day.
yeah,
But having those things instilled in the Marine Corps and already in place, that structure, those basic needs like food, a place to sleep, and fitness that you have to take care of. You have to do those things in the Marine Corps. Otherwise, you're not going to make it.
yeah,
That helps a lot, man. I mean,
agreed,
you can say that we sabotage ourselves with like all the smoking and dipping and drinking that Marines tend to do, but hey, they've still got some basic checks covered for you. And then when you get out, it's up to you to keep those up. And a lot
yeah,
of people don't.
that's true,
One of the things I refused to do when I got out was be that fat, nasty veteran with a big old beard and a huge beer gut. And all I did was talk about, oh, back in the Marine Corps, back in the Marine Corps at the bar to people who don't give a shit. Like,
yep,
go do something with yourself. I mean, I'm not saying like, don't be fat and nasty. If you want to be fat and nasty, go do your thing. But that's not for me, man. That's not what's going to make me happier, be like
yeah.
fulfilling for me.
The other thing that is, there's not, if you want to be fat and nasty, do it, but be realistic about how that's making you feel physically
Mm-hmm.
and mentally. I don't think I've ever come across somebody who treats their body like shit that genuinely was happy
Yeah.
with their body. They'll tell you they are. They'll try to, and this isn't an attack on fat people, to be clear, please. But I'm just saying, like, if you, I don't think I've ever come across anybody who, that at least that I've known personally, who've let themselves go, that hasn't been like, dude, I can't wait to fucking be in shape again. You know what I mean? They're not like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is okay. I'm okay with this. I had to replace all my clothes, but this is fine. Like, they're all like, I really want to get back in the gym, as soon as work, smooths out. And I've said that a gajillion
Mm-hmm.
times. I got out of the Marine Corps. I immediately grew a beard and stopped working out. Well, no, I kept working out. I kept working out for a couple months, but then once I,
Mm-hmm.
I had two jobs, so I was working like 85 hours a week. So I did
Yep.
not, I didn't, and it was on my feet. So I didn't really want to go to the gym. And it's literally taken me until pretty freaking recently to get my ass back in gear. But which is a very, very long aside and tangent, and I apologize, but
Mm-hmm.
a very long way of saying, if you are struggling and you're finding yourself isolating socially, and um you just don't feel very good about yourself and the way that you're living, a good place to start, it's not a cure, again, to make that abundantly clear, but a good place to start is with a little bit of what you're eating and a little bit of what you're doing physically, because it can't
Yeah,
fucking
and that'll
hurt.
help. That'll help, man. Because
Yeah,
I mean, we can keep going in that circle of like, what helps this? No, that doesn't help me. Okay, does it help you? No. Okay, what helps you? But man, if you're getting out of the military and you're scared and you're already like not feeling great, keep up a lot of your routine. Keep getting your hair cut at least once a month. I try to do that. Get
Yeah,
your haircut once a
agreed.
month so you feel good at least about your hair standards because maybe that's a thing for you. It was for me when I first got out.
Me too.
Keep
I
yeah,
get a
but
haircut every other week. So,
yeah, if your health standards and your fitness and your appearance standards mean that much to you and they help you feel like you're still in a good rhythm, then do that because getting out disrupts your rhythm of everything. You get
yeah.
out, that's it. There's no structure for you anymore. You can go be homeless if you want. You and some of us need structure. I really needed structure when I was getting out and I didn't have it. So now I have to do something physical every day. I either have to swim, gym, or climb or skate. Like
Nice.
I need something.
Yeah.
And maybe sex. Maybe sex is your physical thing. But you need something physical for me to stimulate me so I can sleep well. And I need structure. So I have in my schedule when I'm going to practice my horn, when I'm going to go to the gym. I have my class and everything that's in there. I have that in my calendar. My calendar is fucking packed. And, I could choose not to do all of those things or I can adhere to my structure that I know feels good and do
Hmm.
that. So getting out, like, give yourself some structure. Here's my last couple of tips as we wrap up. You need some structure. If you're one of those people that need structure, give yourself structure. Give yourself a fighting chance. Keep up with your height and weight and your diet. Keep a good diet. Keep a wholesome life. Keep a good sleep schedule. Um, get into some social activity. It's gonna be weird, man. It's gonna be weird, but get into
Yep.
a sport. Get
Definitely.
into a team sport. Try not to do a university team sport if you can manage, unless the age is close to you because it's going to be different. You're going to be playing with 18, 19 year olds,
Yeah.
and all the talk about is getting smashed on the weekend and living at mom and dad's house sometimes. Maybe
Yep.
not, that's not fair to say for all uni kids, but join a sport league of people of your own fucking age and socialize with people that, like, age wise, you belong with because that's going to be really easy. You're not going to be thinking, like, man, you're really stressed out about sending an email or like that you got an email about something that's going to happen in 2 days that stresses you out. Come on, bro. But
Yep.
if you hang out with people of your age, that's not going to be an issue because we're adults at this point. We get it. Shit happens sometimes late notice. You just got to go with it.
Yeah.
So just do a
Definitely.
couple things that might help you, And if you need help, the VA, like if you call Military One Source as you're getting out, you get Military One Source gives you 10 free counseling sessions with a counselor of your choosing. You don't have to go on base, and your unit doesn't have to know anything. You call Military One Source. And if that counselor agrees that you need more counseling, they can continue to give you sessions for free.
Damn, I actually didn't know
And
that.
if you're looking to change paces, if you need to change a pace and change a scenery, the GI Bill pays for tons of international schools. The GI Bill is paying for me to be here. That's the only reason I'm here and I'm not penniless. I mean, I get disability. That helps a lot. So file for disability if you're fucking injured or if you've got mental health issues, man. It's there. It's
Yeah.
there for a reason.
Definitely.
Use it. Use the GI Bill. Use your disability. Like, use the resources that one may not be outlined very well for you, but we can put those links in descriptions. But use resources that are there. There's no shame. And again, this might be a hard pill for people to swallow, but there's no shame in saying, like, hey, man, I'm not in a good place. I need some help. I've done that. I did that when I had suicidal thoughts. My
Yep.
wife, or my ex wife, I should say, she saw a suicide note that I wrote and she said, "What the fuck is this?" And I said, "You're right. That's messed up. I need to go see somebody." Because I didn't want to kill myself. I needed to cry for help. I wanted some help, but I didn't know how to say that. So I went and I put myself in fucking counseling through NSA. So I went to NSA counseling just because it was close to work, and it helped. I got evaluated. I got calmed down. Got some help. They didn't send me to medical. They didn't take away my fucking clearance. Like, they didn't do any of that bullshit that the Lance Corporal Underground says they're gonna do. Oh, they're gonna reclass you. They're gonna take your MOS away. They're gonna kick you out. They're gonna take your clearance. Like, you're not gonna have your job. They're gonna kick you out of the Marine Corps. No, they're not. They want to fucking help you, man. You're part of their goddamn family, dude. They will help you. You just have to ask. Like, there were people in my unit. I'm not gonna say their names. There was a guy in my unit who got injured, got addicted to painkillers that were issued to him. Then he ran out of prescription. So he turned to drugs and he was on hard fucking drugs. And then he actually came to the unit and said, I have a problem. I need some help, man. And yes, they busted him down a rank. Yes, they put him on restriction, but they put him in programs. They put him in rehab programs and they kept this dude around for his entire contract and made sure that he was on his feet by the time that he was getting ready to leave. Because yeah, you're probably not going to be able to re-enlist if you pop for hard drugs and you go to rehab for that. But they're not going to bust you down if you go get help. If they
Or kick
find
you
out,
out, or kick you out
yeah,
outright.
if they find out and you're trying to hide, they will fuck you. But if you notice and you say, "Hey man, I've got some alcohol issues. I need some help." We had two people in my unit that went to alcohol meetings and they got their coins. And people in my unit were fucking proud of those guys. Like
Yeah, that's
one was
rad.
a sergeant, one was a lance corporal, and they went to weekly meetings together, and they had their coins. One of them had a 2 year coin, one of them had a 1 year coin, and we actually had ceremonies for them in the unit in our little coof. We
That's
would,
cool, man.
we would sit down and we'd present them with a coin, and we were fucking proud of these guys for getting help.
Yeah,
Don't be one of those like proud assholes that's like, no, I'm a badass. I don't need help. Dude, everyone needs help sometimes. That's normal.
that's the big thing is the pride, because you're like we talked about last episode, probably every episode damn near. It's that you're supposed to put everything aside and keep pushing, keep hammering. And that might work when you're in to a degree, but just like people always tell you, nobody cares about your career the way you do. Nobody cares about your mental health the way you do either.
No, man.
Like
It's
you need to swallow if you're finding yourself in that kind of a situation. It's not just that there's no shame in it.
mm-hmm.
It's a lot of times the people who care about you will be proud of you for swallowing your pride and taking care of what needs to be taken care of. And just like Brandon said last time, if you're not getting the help that you feel you should be getting when you seek it, keep looking, because it's not you. If you go to a therapist and you're like, this dude's a fucking bonehead, like this guy's not getting me anywhere, all he's
Yeah.
telling me, like the experience that I went to go see a therapist because I was having a really fucking hard time after I got out. Like I was high all the time, drinking every night almost. Like I didn't like going out in public. It was rough. It was pretty bad. And I went to go see this dude, and he was like, "Yeah, you basically should just become a teetotaler, and then like you should just stop drinking. You should stop doing anything." He recommended I go vegan. He like it was pretty fucking nonsensical, but there was no direction. It was basically like let's
Mm-hmm.
find out whether or not you're depressed and anxious. Oh, you are. Okay, well, good luck. End of discussion. I was like, all right, well,
Yeah.
thanks, bro. Appreciate it. Um, but it was on. I didn't go and seek further. I don't want to say a second opinion, but I didn't go and seek further. I didn't make use of the other resources that were available to me, and
Mm-hmm.
part of it partially because I didn't know about them. Um, but there are a shitload. Phil just rattled off a few of them, and I will put those links in the descriptions on YouTube. Um, I don't know if I'll be able to on Apple and Spotify. I'll look into that. But anyway, there's a shitload um, of resources available to veterans because people are kind of starting to figure out that this shit is harder than they thought.
Yeah.
You know, like it's not really a secret anymore. Like the cat's out of the bag. The military and getting out of the military is not fucking good for your brains.
Mm.
So, you know, utilize what's available to you and do your best to be active and not and alone as little as possible is the distillation of what I think we've just talked about, right? Would you say so? Did I miss
Yeah.
anything?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or do you have any other closing do you have any other close Oh, Phil just sent me the links. Perfect.
I've got links for you there, so we just post them when we're finished up. But
Absolutely.
if
Yeah,
I,
this isn't
man,
live, so
if
we'll
I
take care of
sound
that.
mad towards the end of this, it's only because I really care about this shit. Like, I've
Yeah.
been in that hole. Like, a lot of us have been in that hole, but not a lot of us admit it. Been in that hole. I found my way out, and I used some resources that were available to me. And I really care about this shit because I've seen people that really need to be there, and they're not. They really need these
Definitely.
resources, and they're not utilizing them for whatever reason they have. And it's fucking frustrating, man, because people actually care about you and they want you to do well if you give them the chance to give you some help. They're
Absolutely.
there. That's
Yeah.
their whole, that's why they went to that job field, man. You're not going to go to a therapist. I mean, you might go to a shit therapist. I'm not saying that there aren't shit therapists out there,
Yeah.
but therapy as a profession, people didn't just do that for like shits and gigs, man. They do that because they care about you. And
Yep.
medical professionals, they care about people's health. That's why they're there. They want to fucking help you, man. Just go get the help.
Yeah. Agreed. And we're trying and find yourself like we've talked about before. Find yourself a community, whether it be a sports team or a club or something like that. I'm trying to build a community here. I've started um, a Discord server for any of you nerds out there like us. And so I'll post that link for you guys to be able to join that if you want to find people to play video games with, or just shoot the shit with, or you know, I don't care if you fucking play sports bets when they start actually playing sports again. I don't give a fuck. Just if you want to find a place, you need to find a place where you can surround yourself with people. They don't need to be veterans. They don't need to understand necessarily what you're going through. They just need to care about you. They just need to give a shit about you and for you to give a shit about them.
Yeah.
Because that network of support is, I think, one of the most valuable things, not just if you're, a veteran getting out, but just as a person. So, we'll try to continue building out a community for anybody who wants to become a part of it. But did we miss anything, Phil? Do you have any other closing notes?
No, man. If anyone wants to talk and you want to be anonymous, just make a fake Facebook account and fucking add me on there. And if you're trolling me, hey, man, I'm still going to take it seriously. Like, because you don't
Yeah.
have to like spill your guts to me or anyone else on here. But, dude, if you just want to say, like, hey, man, I'm having a shit time out here. I just want somebody to play a video game with, or I just want to fucking send you a wall of text and get something off my chest. Do it, man. No one's going to think less of you for it. And if they
Agreed.
do, fuck them.
Yeah, fuck them. Same goes for me. I'm. We both want to. We both just want to help. That's why we're doing this. Because
We're not out here to fucking show off our dicks. Be like, look at me, I got help. I'm doing great. I'm a veteran. No, man, we're trying to give you some advice. If any of this helps you, good. If none of it helps you, tell us what helps you,
that's
man.
yeah,
Give us some ideas.
yeah. In the comments, if you found something that works for you, that if you found something that works for you that involves complete solitude, let us know. Because it's not that I think you're wrong. I'm just curious because I'm an extrovert. I don't do super well in complete isolation. I'm on like day 3 of self-imposed
Oh
coronavirus
no.
quarantine, and I already want to rip my balls off. So if you guys know something about about something that genuinely helped you, that did involve or does involve quiet or solitude, or meditation or something like that, please drop it in the comments, because that
Mm-hmm.
might be helpful for somebody who hates people, or more than I do, or well, that sounded a little heavy-handed, but somebody who doesn't rely on interpersonal communication
Mm-hmm.
for like I do. So please start a dialogue. And if you want to be on the podcast and refute everything that we just said, fuck it, man. Come on. Send me a DM and we'll get you on this bitch. All right? But I appreciate you talking to me, man. It was great catching up with you.
Absolutely, man. No problem.
All right, you guys. Thank you so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed learning everything about Phil and his really unique time in the Marine Corps, and what he's been doing afterwards, which not very many people get to do. Just picking up and moving somewhere completely different to pursue their dreams. So that was pretty inspiring. But I'm gonna go ahead and post the links that he talked about the resources that he mentioned in the Instagram post about this episode. So just go ahead and check that out at hutb.podcast on Instagram. And I started a Patreon for the podcast. Don't feel like you guys need to donate anything. It's just to, kind of try and help grow the podcast and reach as many people as I can. I'm really not trying to do this for money, so don't feel like you need to, but it's there if you're feeling generous. But I really appreciate your guys' support. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
You know you're one thing better, clear.